All right, thank you so much for being our captives for a time being. So there were a bunch of questions that were posted today. You can sort of see them up there. I'll read them out. You guys can decide how you want to answer them, in what order. If you choose not to answer one, that's perfectly fine. You can just tell me, I'll skip it.
What do we have to do if we don't want to answer it? What's the magic word?
It's like, give me the finger or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. All right, so. No, I can't. It's direct. All right, so the first question is for Dan. It says, hi, Dan. My question is concerning CRA. Is it possible to make static file hashing optional? We really don't want to eject.
Yeah, so I was actually confused by this question. I saw it earlier, and like this is the first time there is another question which is very similar, which is also quoted, and like there is this feature request, which like people sometimes ask for it, but like it's the first time I see it quoted to the top, so I don't really have a clear sense of like why you would want to do this, because like the browsers, they cache things, and like if you ship, like if you make changes, but then the file name is the same, then your users are going to get a stale like bundle from the cache. So I don't really have a clear sense of what this is about, but like maybe the best way to address it is just to file an issue and explain why you want it, or at least like it would be helpful if the question included the motivation. It's very hard to answer otherwise. But no, like we don't really plan to make this customizable.
Okay, so the answer is no for time being.
No.
All right, cool. All right, awesome. Another one, this is specifically, it says, hi Dan, welcome to Armenia, we're very nice here. Is it possible to avoid from randomly generate hash codes?
That's the same thing. That's the same
sorry.
question, which is so weird.
Sorry. Skipping over, so no.
I'm just curious if there's like a company of like 15 people who are like, this is our problem, this is Apple.
Can you actually,
I don't know if that's what happened.
let's do a survey. Raise your hand if this concerns you. Like if this is an issue that you guys have faced and feel like it needs to be addressed.
One person there.
Can you say why? If we give you a mic?
Where's that second mic?
That's here.
No, there's a third one actually.
Let's just follow up on Twitter.
All right, okay, to be discussed later. All right. So, hi, welcome to Armenia. In which cases using functional components with hooks for new React components is not recommended, and we should proceed with classes?
Sara, what do you use classes for?
So the only thing that I haven't really updated to hooks is when, for example, you have a form state and you have an object inside of an object inside of an object, and it just gets super nested. And when you use hooks, you have to spread every single part of it because it doesn't really reconcile it. And when you use that set state, it actually reconciles that one object while hooks do not. So that is the only thing that I think I still haven't transformed into hooks, mostly because I'm lazy. And so this is also not a very good practice. Like you should have different set states for all of the different things, but well, life is hard.
I don't think you actually like have to. So I think the case you're talking about is like the merchant behavior, right? So like in set state in the class, if you have like a bunch of fields, it's gonna merge them automatically, whereas with like use state, it's gonna like replace it.
Yeah.
But you can like actually like one way, if you like the class behavior of merging it, you can write your like use merged state or something like this that just does like object assign.
That's true.
So maybe like that for those cases, that's what I would use, or maybe even just use reducer. So that would let you like pull it out of the component altogether.
I feel like that's the only one where it hasn't been as like fast to change to.
It's just like annoying because you just spread all over the place, and it's like
it takes like another step. Like it's still completely changeable, but it's not like on the spot, for example.
Yeah,
that's about it. I think in my case at least.
I think like in terms of like general recommendation, I would say that what's going on there?
Sorry, never mind. So I'll tell you later.
This is a bit distracting. Oh, it shows the latest?
No. Okay. All right, so.
Can we switch to like a moderated view or?
No. I'm sorry. I don't. Like, did you finish your?
No, I didn't finish the question.
Wait. Let him.
So the question was about like when it's like officially recommended to use classes. I think there are like a few cases that hooks just don't handle at all yet. So like one case is defining an error boundary, like when you define a component that catches errors. So that currently is only supported by classes, but you can have like a single class that does that in an application. And another case is like a niche lifecycle method that almost nobody uses. So I think like in general, if you want to use hooks in new code, you should be able to, and you shouldn't run into like things that well, you have to use a class.
Also because pink is the new black. So I don't know what the question was. What was the question that made people laugh?
So the one that I'm about to ask you. So I think it was a joke. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You don't have to answer it. We can keep going.
We actually thought about that, and our two answers were alive and not in the hospital.
Healthy,
and
not dying, not in the process.
Yeah, that's
like
basically
we're
it.
in the process of dying.
Yeah, but not in a fast process of dying. I think that's about it. We have really low standards, apparently. It's not like I see myself in a huge house, like, I just don't want to be in a fucking hospital.
That's a very well articulated answer.
Or at least like to have insurance.
Oh yeah, no, I have insurance. I've complained about that several times. Am I? You know how much I pay for insurance? I pay 800 euros a month for insurance. Welcome to Germany.
All right, so moving on. Any plans for adding the ability to lazy load named exports via React.lazy?
To do what?
To lazy load named exports.
Oh, they named exports. So this is a question about like, I know a lot of, especially TypeScript users tend to prefer like named exports for everything.
It's because of VS Code tab-driven development thing.
So it offers you like better.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
All of VS Code is written like that. I didn't know either. Eva told me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't care personally that much. The thing is like, the reason lazy doesn't support, it supports default exports because in the future we'd like to completely get rid of like the lazy annotation altogether. So like we want to make it so that you can write like dynamic imports directly, like const button equals import button, that's a dynamic import. And you just write all top level imports that way, and then like you just use them in JSX directly. And so that doesn't work today because like we could make it work, but we don't do it that way today because mainstream bundlers, like popular bundlers like Webpack and so on, they would actually create a split point for every single component, which is not what you want. Like ideally, a bundler would be smart enough to like coalesce them into based on the usage. So you need some kind of usage stats for that. So like at Facebook, for example, we collect information about how which components tend to be used together, based on real world analytics, and then there is like a machine learning thing that generates optimized bundles based on that. And so I think there are similar projects for in Angular ecosystem there is something called Guess.js, I think, that tries to do something similar. Maybe it also works for React, I'm not sure. But anyway, in that kind of world, you would just write all imports as dynamic imports. And the thing is that with dynamic imports, they don't support named imports. They give you the module handler. So even if we supported named imports with lazy today, then when that syntax becomes available, we'd have to roll it back anyway. So what is the point? That doesn't mean that you shouldn't use them. For now, if you use lazy, you probably just put it in a few places. And for those places, I don't think it should be difficult to just use default exports. I think.
Yeah, also one of the things that you can do out of it is never, so if you use TypeScript and that is the main concern, is to not use export default with no name, is to actually give your components a name, and that will actually help TypeScript to do the same thing, but it will also work for React Lazy, basically.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised. I see a lot of people writing something like export default function, and then just
a lot of that because
parents.
I'm lazy.
Is it too hard to write a name? That's the thing. How do you look at the file and you don't even see what the name of the component is?
We just look at the name of the folder. And it's the same thing.
Oh, and then the file.
Also, we
file
use stock components.
Yes.
Wait, we use stock components, so the name of the wrapper is usually what defines the file.
Oh, I see.
No, that's fucking stupid.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
It's just literally out of laziness, and then you forget.
Yeah.
So like it usually also happens of like I duplicate a lot of files. So like I have a file that's called like, I don't know, dashboard page. And then I duplicate it to be like the about page, but then I forget to change the name and then forever is the dashboard page.
Yeah, I usually copy the button.js. That's like my thing.
That could be the button.js too. Yeah. Next question.
All right, cool. So will React DOM evolve into a framework similar to React Native eventually?
So I'm not sure I fully understand what it means, like my guess is this is about something like React Native DOM. No, what is
React Native DOM?
No, that's
React Native Web. React Native DOM is the other
yeah, so there is this thing called React Native Web, which is like it offers primitives like in React Native, like view and text and stuff, but it generates like DOM elements. And maybe this is a question about like, do we want to do something like this officially? And the answer is maybe, eventually.
So if you think that, so for example, React Native Web is what powers the entirety of mobile Twitter, for example. So it can actually, like, it doesn't have to be in React DOM, like you can use it right now. As in like if Twitter uses it, I think you're fine.
Yeah, so Twitter rebuilt their like mobile website they're now rolling it out to desktop as well. Yeah. It's like the new Twitter, but that's built with React Native Web, which is it is a funny name because like people get very confused by it.
The name is kind of confusing.
Yeah, I think it's just like if this ever becomes a thing, it probably won't be called React Native Web. Maybe it'll just be called React.
Minimalistic.
All right, very well. So next one. What's the best choice for better performance? SSR or pre-rendering?
So I thought a bit about this, and I think this actually depends, and Dan, go correct me if I'm wrong. I think this also depends a lot on the infrastructure that you're using. So for example, if you use an infrastructure which just gives you one node server, for example, then you have one node server serving everyone, which will actually not make it that performant because you have one node server serving 1,000 human beings, and the node server takes a long time to start and just like gets flooded with human beings. Well, for example, if you use pre-rendering, it just serves you a static HTML page, and most of the times they're stuck in Cloudflare or in a CDN, so that does make it faster. But you can also put SSR serverless, which basically does the same thing and almost puts it in a CDN. So it really depends on what you're using to host that. As a preference, I prefer to use static exports like Gatsby, but that's a personal preference. So I think this is mostly about what stack you use on the backend. So if you use serverless, I think they're both pretty much the same speed. If you just have one node server serving everyone, may not be a good idea.
I think it also depends on like the kind of app it is, right? Because like maybe it's just like people build landing pages with React, and like in that case,
literally all landing pages are not built with Gatsby that uses React. Just saying.
Yeah, and I mean like I think Gatsby is fine. It's a bit.
Fine.
It's not like I use it for a blog.
It's great.
It's pretty great when you like get it working. I struggled at first, but like I got it working. So.
I can never forget that I got an error once in Gatsby, which was cannot read property internal of undefined. And I'm like, I have no idea what the hell this means.
Property front matter of free mark.
Yeah. It turns out my error was because I missed a comma in the Gatsby config. And instead of saying like there's a grammatic error, he said like cannot read property internal of undefined. And I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, that happens to me all the time with Gatsby. Anyway, but like the output it generates is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
But then like if your app is, I don't know, if it's like driven by, like if it doesn't have much of a shell and if it's like all driven by data, then like pre-rendering doesn't really help you much because like you don't know the data anyway. And in that case, it makes sense to like server render. But even like the server rendering will also like change in how that works. So there's the current server render, which is like synchronous. But we're currently rebuilding Facebook.com. There is like a video from F8 conference about, like there's a few technical videos about what we're doing. And part of that is we're experimenting with new server rendering that's going to be using suspense on the server as well. And so the goal there is that we want to support partial hydration. So we want to be able to kind of send HTML for like some part of the app, like a frame kind of, but then like maybe the feed loads a bit later, and like maybe it's rendered on the client, maybe the server rendered. So like it's more flexible. And then the goal there is that we want to be able to start hydrating, like running JavaScript code without loading the whole JavaScript bundle. So like we want to be able to just hydrate the things that you interacted with, like maybe you click notifications, and we want to like, we know that, oh, we need to hydrate the top navigation bars as fast as possible, but like all the other things, maybe they can wait a little bit. So that's an area we're like actively researching. I don't know like what specifically comes out of that, but we are putting a lot of like effort into server render, and I think that will actually change the equation a little bit, and maybe like the trade-offs will be a bit different.
Cool. All right. Wait, there was one that was up here. Sorry, this stuff is jumping around. Sorry, one sec. That one. Okay. Flow or TypeScript, or maybe React prop types. Which one of these is best for React, in your opinion?
I don't like any. I have this strong hate about like, I think like not React prop types, but like the two others. So like I am the worst person to answer this. I have one TypeScript project because my boss made me, and I hate it. Like I just hate it. Also my VS Code was super slow, which doesn't make any sense. Like it's fucking built on TypeScript. I literally almost switched to Atom. I could rant about this for 10 minutes.
I wouldn't say like anything is strong. I would say that I don't particularly like either of them. That doesn't mean that like you shouldn't use them. Like, I mean, like if I was working on a project with like 10 other developers, I would probably use a type system. I don't know if I would use like Flow with TypeScript, because I kind of know Flow because like we use it at Facebook. I know it from like working with React. I know a little bit of TypeScript as well. I struggle with like Flow sometimes, but like I guess I would probably use them for like annotations of, just as kind of a documentation to like annotate the props and the state. I'm not sure I would, like sometimes I look at code with a lot of types and it's like the majority of code is types and then there is some logic squeezed in between. I think that's a bit like too much for me. I kind of prefer when there is more inference. But then there are languages like Reason that have a lot of inference, but I'm like scared to dive into them because they're just kind of too far from JavaScript, and like the interop is a bit scary to me personally. So like, I don't know what you should use, whatever you're like comfortable with. Like honestly, maybe if I was like working on a project, I would maybe keep the types to minimum just around the components. But then if it's like complicated, like ads code base that if something crashes, you're gonna lose millions of dollars, maybe you should like use types a lot. So I'm sorry, I don't really have an answer. I guess like roll with whatever your team is comfortable with. And the community seems to prefer TypeScript nowadays. Maybe it makes sense to like adopt it. But also like if you don't, as long as you're finding like some benefit to it, if you just find that you spend weeks like fixing broken typings and like fighting with them, consider like what you could instead spend your time on. But maybe like if it's beneficial, then you should surely use it.
One thing that I think is important to mention is what the community is creating types for, because I've had to create flow types because there weren't any and it's painful, and it's also for TypeScript. So like try to make sure that the libraries that you're currently using actually have types for them, because like that can actually shift you from one to the other, honestly. I think that's a big thing that you should actually search for.
Yeah, and sometimes like types exist, but they're low quality.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to like talk to people who are using a particular library and see if, like maybe you want to fix them yourself, like that's fine. I don't know.
Fair enough. All right, so do you plan anything with JSX? How do you see the future of JSX?
Do you like JSX? Is that right?
Yeah, no, I really like JSX.
Do you want to change anything in JSX?
Okay, so there's this really random thing. So like, okay, if you write a lot of forms, when here is that to write a form in React and add that thing, you'll be like, so label 4, and then it's like, can I use 4 and need to use HTML4? This never happened to anyone. Why? Apparently there's an answer which Dan will give it to us now. But I'm still like, why?
It is kind of annoying. So like, I think most people bump into it with like class and class name.
Yeah.
So the reason it is this way is because you actually can't use the class identifier in some cases, and it just becomes weird. Like if you write like a button that takes a class name as a property, like as a prop, which you want to pass down to the underlying button. And so you would write it as like function button, and then you open the curly brace to like destructure your props, and you have like onClick, like label, whatever, and then you have class. So that's not going to work. It's not valid JavaScript. Like it's not valid to put class, the key, because like JavaScript has a keyword class. So these cases are like so confusing that when React just came out, like in 2013, they decided that let's just use the DOM name. So like the DOM has the same problem. This is why if you take a DOM element and you do like element.class, that's not a thing. There is like element.class name, which is like the thing. And it's the same with like forms. If you like create the form element, it's like a element.html4. And this is where like this weird name comes from. It's actually from the standard, from the DOM standard. But like I realized a lot of people just like copy paste the HTML into JSX, and it's kind of annoying. We thought that maybe we might we already kind of allow class, but it gets confusing for like all the like third-party components, like components on NPM, because now they have to decide like should they support class name or class or both? What if the user specifies both? And like so far our answer is just use class name, and we're gonna warn if you use class. So you at least see your styles, but like we say no, use the React thing. But like that's one thing that we might change, but it's not really clear that it's much better, so it's controversial. Another thing that we thought maybe might be good is like the ability to do conditions and loops inside of JSX. Not with like special we don't want to do templates like something div 4 or something like this, React 4.
Why no? Why?
But like it's because like it forks the language, so like your LinkedIn doesn't work with it, your types don't work with it, and like it has its own scoping rules. You can't put like console log inside of it, so it's just it completely forks the language. So we don't really like that. But what we could allow is like a special kind of, you know how you like enter like JavaScript from JSX, like you have a tag and then you have a curly, and now we're in JavaScript land again. So we thought we might have like a special star curly, and when you do that, you end up in like a generator body, so you can yield from it. So you can do like for something and then yield like some other thing.
Oh yeah.
So that might be neat, but like we never really got to it. So maybe like when we fix all other problems, maybe we'll like change JSX, but also it's not too bad.
Did you watch Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think about the last season of Game of Thrones?
I think like
I don't watch Game of Thrones, sorry.
I mean, I don't want to give spoilers, but like, I liked it in theory, but like in practice, I didn't like it that much, but I also didn't dislike it as much as some people did. I think like the script was a bit, like, it's just like you watch the first seasons and like the dialogue is so like...
That happens in every single TV show. I mean...
No, I mean like, I like it.
Not Breaking Bad though. But
not Breaking Bad, and I think Mad Men was good, like to the end.
I think
Anyway, yeah.
Never watched Mad Men either.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Wait, that was one of the questions. I feel like the public should get one. No, that was like the latest question. Okay. That's why people were laughing. We're not that funny. Sorry.
Alright, so there's one here. Are there any other benefits to using context instead of just lifting the state up, except for prop drilling problems?
So like we talked a bit about this, and our main idea was that so you can do that like that, but I think the main problem is prop drilling, because first of all, do you want me to return? No, I don't watch Game of Thrones, Dan. What do you feel about this?
I don't
Read the name. I think that's a Game of Thrones character.
No.
Can someone explain? Anything that has a Y in it, I just assume it's a Game of Thrones And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on.
So the
prop
context.
drilling.
Prop drilling, and so it adds a lot of complexity. So first of all, like you're passing props to things that don't really care about your props. So like one of your components doesn't really care, but since you have to get to the bottom component, you have to give it something, and it just bloats your entire thing, and it also makes it slightly slower. And also it's just a complexity, like you're adding a bunch of complexity of lifting stuff up and then passing it to the side that you probably will not need if you're using just like a normal use context. But like in terms of like actual things, I think these are the main two things.
I think like it's like I would say that I think people over like prop drilling is fine, and I think like you don't complain when you pass arguments to functions. Like nobody says, oh, I have to pass this argument to this function. I think part of the reason like why people hate prop drilling is JSX, because in JSX you have to write it twice. So you write like something equals something, and I think that really annoys people.
It does.
Whereas like if we change JSX to make just something mean something equals something, that maybe would alleviate some of that pain. Whereas currently, like, if you just write the key without the value, it's like a boolean. Yeah, it's like true. And some people love it for like design systems and stuff, but it's actually pretty annoying because now we can't change it without making a break and change. Anyway, I think prop drilling is fine for the cases where things in the middle, where the prop kind of makes sense for things in the middle, right? So like, you have maybe autocomplete text input, and maybe it has a property like max length, and then you pass it to like base text input, and then you pass it to like text editable thingy with cursor, and like you pass it through several layers, but for each of those layers, max length kind of makes sense. I think in this case, prop drilling is absolutely fine. But then there are cases where the thing below cares about something from above, and none of the layers in between even like have a concept like this. So like when you're passing like is bottom red through like a modal dialog. Well, the dialog doesn't care, or authenticated user. The authenticated user has nothing to do with like your button. So I think in that case, context makes sense, and the solution is just a way to decouple the thing at the top from the thing at the bottom. But I don't think like that. Yeah, I don't know. Does that? I can't ask if that answers the question. I don't know who asked it.
That answers the question.
It answers the question.
Thank you.
All right, so the questions keep jumping around because people are changing, but there was one, yeah. How do you see the future of React? Like, what's the next big thing coming for React?
Aren't you like, isn't it enough? It's like,
no. We want more hooks.
Like, we literally changed like the. I mean, no, that's like honestly how I think about it is. So like some people complain that things change too fast or too often. I don't think it's entirely true, like in terms of things that break. So like at Facebook we have components that were written in 2011 and they still work. Like that's 2 years before React was even released in open source. And they use like create class and mix-ins and all these like legacy patterns that people are like, you might have like an instant rule that forbids them. But the fact is like legacy code needs to keep on working, and we need to find a way to like make those things work. So I don't think everything breaks all the time. But in terms of like, I don't know, like do it break your stuff?
No, it's really rare that anything breaks with React. It usually breaks with components. Like other like things that, for example, you update React or you update one of the components and something like that. But actually React breaking something, it usually just creates new things. At least that's my experience.
Yeah, like we usually either rename something and then there is like automated script, but it's a problem for like...
I think honestly the unsafe thing is completely fine. First of all, it lasts a couple times and then like it just shows you a warning so that when you change it, you actually feel bad. It's one of those things like having a shamed.css file. Like you just feel bad about having something in your code that says unsafe. So you eventually remove it.
Yeah, that's kind of how we do it at Facebook. I think like we know that sometimes it's impossible to like completely remove some API, but we like rename it to like shameful names like do not use, deprecated, this will break your app, and like underscore this, underscore will, and so on. Like I'm surprised that this is not a common practice. I think like people feel that, oh, the code needs to be clean, But I think like the codes need to send a message about whether it's like actually clean or not. And like it's fine to admit that, you know, like this thing is using something legacy that's not well supported. But still, like the point about like, we try not to change things too fast, but we did release this new API like hooks that we think addresses some problems that were really hard to solve previously. And I think like in general, we try to be the next thing after React, and like, because like otherwise it means why are we working on React if we're not like trying to make it better, right? So if we find some better idea, we try to like incorporate it into React and to evolve it, because the alternative is that React will stagnate and you'll just switch to something else anyway. So I think that's like the unacknowledged cost of stability, is that if you don't change anything, then
People will just run away.
yeah, like you're still gonna migrate, but like to a different thing. So
That's actually an example of that is Lodash. Before Lodash, there was something else that I don't remember the name.
underscore.
Yeah, which Lodash is pretty much underscore, but it was updated.
Yeah.
And while Lodash and while underscore would just stay stagnant. And it doesn't mean it's bad, it just means that it stays stagnant.
Yeah. So like I hope that the next thing after React will be React. Not because we want to like, I don't know, dominate or anything, but I think like we just want to learn from everyone else who's putting out like some really interesting work in that space, and also hope that the things that we work on will also be like adopted by other libraries. So hopefully like React and other things that are yet to come.
Sounds good. All right, so Eddie writes, do you have any plans for documenting Fiber internals? Something like an article or better, an egghead course about different parts of Fiber internals.
So this is actually funny because we recorded the video, like I record, so do you know Yanni?
I don't know how to say his last name, but yes.
Yeah, but so he's like a fun guy.
He's also good. Yeah.
So he was like complaining on Twitter about how everything started.
So basically Yanni just complains on Twitter, and weirdly things happen. So yeah, that's if you don't have Twitter, that's how it works.
Yeah. I don't like Yanni can do this really well. Like it doesn't always work this way, but anyway, he complained about how it's hard to like understand what goes on inside of React, and he was kind of curious. And we did a screencast where we implemented smoosh mode. So we added, that's not like a real thing, but as an exercise, as a way to like learn about React internals, we implemented jokingly like smoosh mode that would, if you wrap a component subtree with it, it would remove all the divs from it. So it would like smoosh all the divs.
Nice.
And that we use that as a way to like just demonstrate the code base and what are the different parts you can try to change. And so that should be out like this or next week. So watch out for it. Yanni is going to tweet about it, and I'll retweet.
Cool. All right, so we have time for one or two more questions. Oh, Jesus. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, yeah. Here we go. How do you see Reason ML developing? What type of projects benefit more from using pure programming approach as opposed to simple React?
I don't really feel that like I'm qualified to answer this because I haven't used Reason in practice. I know some people like it. I don't really have a clear sense of the trade-offs, so I can't really speak to that.
Yeah, no, I did a Reason workshop. That was about it, which helped me do Elixir. So, thanks.
Wait. Oh, hang on. All right, cool. Shit. 1 second. Okay. How do you think Flutter will affect the development of React Native? How do you see the problem with the bridge being fixed in the future versions?
The what?
Hang on, let me get out of this again. This is the question, sorry. Of course. How do you think Flutter will affect the development of React Native? Is the first part. Second being, how do you see the problem with the bridge being fixed in the future versions?
I really don't know what the person is meaning by the bridge being fixed in the future versions. Do you know what it means?
I think it's maybe about so there is like ongoing React Native re-architecture. So there used to be like a bridge I don't actually know, there still is, but like there used to be like this thing that sits between the JavaScript and the native side, and it would be asynchronous, so like it would send messages back and forth, and in some cases you actually wanted it to be synchronous, but you couldn't do it. So like if you put like a React Native view inside of like a native list or something, and then you want to like measure what is the like the height of that thing so that you can like put more stuff below it. You couldn't do this synchronously on first render, which is like super annoying in some cases. So like we're going through that rewrite of React Native like infrastructure that I think it replaces the bridge with like the rec calls to C++. So how does that relate to Flutter?
Oh, sorry.
So I don't think this really relates to Flutter that much. It was more of a response to like the things that we bumped into, like the limitations that we bumped into with React Native in our apps, and like the internal and external libraries like Litho, Litho component kit that we developed at Facebook, that like don't have that bridge, and so they don't have that problem. So I think that's really the inspiration for that. Although like we also look at what Flutter does. I don't know if Flutter is going to like affect React Native in any particular way. I don't know. Have you seen like?
I've never used Flutter. I
like,
know what it is, but I've never used it.
Like my impression is that it's like it re-implements. It's kind of like drawing to canvas. So it actually re-implements all the primitives from the ground up, like text boxes and stuff. It's like, I mean, I see why.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to like have consistent look, but then the problem is like you want to do selection, well you can't use the operating system.
Oh, so you use something like Ionic, for example. Ionic just has their own components, and then like you can't really style them or anything. Like it just gives you the pure components that Android has, or the pure components that
I think it's even different from that because Ionic also. So I think Ionic is using just web stuff. So it's like a web view, I think. Or is it not?
Yeah, I think it kind of is like a web view. They use web components to make the components.
Yeah, so it's a web view. So that's different because it's still like you can still like copy paste or autofill and do this kind of stuff. But with Flutter, they have to re-implement all of the like operating system functionality for those things. And at least like on the web, I don't know, like that's kind of difficult to pull off, except for some cases like games maybe, or like some specific kinds of apps. On native, it's probably easier, but still, like if you want to have good accessibility and that kind of stuff, it's.
I will never understand why you can't just copy text on like a mobile app. But okay.
Yeah, so it's just I think it can be weird, but I don't know. It's interesting to see. Like I think even Google is trying a more like integrated approach with like Compose. That's like a new library that is inspired by Flutter, but it uses like I think it supports using native widgets. So I'm not sure.
Cool. So this one's to Sarah. What technologies, tools, libraries do you use for front-end development at CodeSandbox?
So just get out of the way, our backend is in Elixir. And so at the front end, we use two different state management together, which sounds kind of weird, and it's goddamn weird, but well. So we use Mobex State Tree, and we also use Cerebral. So we use Cerebral for the actual state, and Mobex State Tree for the observable part of the state, which is very weird, but it's a big ass application, so I don't know. So the good thing that Cerebral has is that it has sequences. So you can say like, when you run open deploy to Zeit, for example, you can say open modal and like set the state to modal, Zeit modal open to true. Then you can run a function, then run another function, and then on success. It's like, it's very convoluted for a reason, I think. I'm not sure yet. We'll figure it out. So for the rest, we use Apollo for the part that's GraphQL. All our dashboard is in GraphQL. But it's honestly mostly just a lot of API calls and a lot of like state management and a lot of React Router. And yeah.
Can I ask, what is Elixir? I keep forgetting.
So Elixir comes also from OCaml. Yeah. It's goddamn weird. Like, I don't know why someone just got up one day and was like, you know what we should do? Get this 25-year-old language and put it everywhere. Come on. Okay, I guess we're doing that. So Elixir, the reason we're still using Elixir is because, so for example, we deployed to Zeit and Netlify. Both of these are node services. So if it's a small service, we'll just build it in Node. But the concurrent mode in Elixir is really good, so that's why we still use Elixir. Like Live is really good. And I did a Reason workshop, so I kind of get it, but not really.
So it's similar, like it looks similar to Reason?
Yeah, so it does the pattern matching and the name thingies. Where's the dude? Where's the Reason dude? It does the name thingies, that you can name the thingies. What's the name of that thingy? Like name variables. It does like name parameters on the functions, and there's the thingy.
For the record, it comes from airline, not OCaml.
Okay, sorry,
No worries.
Keep going. Wait, doesn't airline come from OCaml?
No.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Wait, doesn't everything come from OCaml now? No. Damn it! And pipeline operator. So it has some like things that kind of look like it, and that actually kind of helps. But yeah. So yeah, no, that's pretty much what we use for animation. We use oh my god, what's the name of the thing?
Pose? Or?
No, not Pose. I think it's React Spring?
React Spring.
I think it's React Spring. We use a lot of React Spring for animations, and the homepage is Gatsby. We also use a ton of Airtable for some reason. Yeah.
Okay, are we out of time or one more? One more. All right. Wait, which one? You didn't? Ah, okay. Is it reliable for you to have more than one virtual DOM tree in one SPA? Meaning, is it okay to call React DOM more than once?
No, I think I can explain what they mean. So, like, if you have, like, imagine that you have an Angular application, because, like, I don't know. Sorry. So, like, imagine that you have a legacy application, and you have two components that are React, but, like, you need to render React DOM twice. Basically, I think that's fine. I've used that for a very long time.
That's like how React was like originally supposed. That's the way to use React. Like I guess it's just weird. Like when React came out, that was how you use React. You just put it into like a like button, and then eventually maybe you use a bit more. And now people like create whole apps with React, and so it's I guess like there is this. Yeah, of course, like that is how React works. You can like React DOM render whatever. Yeah, like for example on Facebook, like on the old Facebook.com, which is the one that you know, like the blue one, it's not a React app, but it has like every comments widget, but just like, share, comment, and the replies and stuff. That's React. And so if you like scroll down and like you have 100 posts, that's going to be like 100 React.render calls, and like each is a separate tree. But then the new one is going to be like a single tree.
No, I've actually used that for a very long time as well. Because I had an Angular application.
Yeah, like that's totally fine. There is because like some people kept asking about this, so we added a page. Like if you go to React website and go to there is a section like installation or something like this. There's like one page is called Create a New App, which explains how to create like a single page app, and another page is called Add React to a Website. And so it shows you how to like do React DOM.render and like without any Webpack or Bubble or like any of that thing. Like if you don't want any of those things, like don't use them. Just like put React as a script tag, call React DOM.render on anything that you want to make React in.
Cool. All right. Do we have more time? Timekeeper? I don't mind. I can be here all day. Do you guys mind? All right. Let's keep it going.
I want to keep the audience, if they're like tired, you should just feel free to like go.
All right. Let's do one more question because we have been here since, well, I've been here since 8. Okay. So, pick one. Oh. Yeah, sure. Let's do that one. How developer can give a priority to components in concurrent mode?
How can you give priority to components in concurrent mode? Can you do that?
The first one. This one.
Yeah, so that's not really how it works. Well, I mean, like, we also weren't sure how it works. I'm just saying that because it's like, we seem to be closer to figuring that out. I think, like, one thing that we don't really, like, let you give priorities to components, because, like, you don't really want to see a part of your screen updating and like randomly other part like in behind, like this just looks weird unless you intentionally like are okay with it. So it's more like we let you, one thing we let you do is we want to mark a certain, like we want to let you mark a certain part of the tree as like invisible. So like maybe you have like several tabs and like only one of them is visible at a time, but like maybe you want the transitions to be fast and you want to like keep the old ones mounted once you've like opened one of them. And so what we let you do is that usually you would just render one, but with like this new API you can say like render all of them, but like render like all of the ones that were already opened, but like wrap them into like off-screen thing that says that they're not visible. And so what this does is that it tells React that if there is a set state inside of them, it's going to be like, React is just going to like ignore it for a while and like only do it if there's nothing else to do at all. This just like throttles them really, just like browser throttles tabs. And another thing that,
so you can't bump like a priority up, you can only bump it down.
exactly.
Nice.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. That's what we should say in the docs. And because it's actually like another thing that we realized, like for cases where you actually want like something to update, like when something can wait a little, so like maybe you have a text input and then you have some super complicated interface that updates in response to these changes, but then or like even like does a like server request like CodeSandbox does to like get the names of packages that start with certain letters. So that thing might suspend, but you don't want to show a spinner as soon as you type a new letter.
Yeah.
Instead, it's fine to like let it show the old thing for like 200 milliseconds and then like switch it over. So like we want to make these patterns easy to implement. And so what we realized is that update like priorities that they are not given to like component trees. They're given to update operation itself. So like when you set state, that's the thing that you can give priority to, and you can only downgrade the priority. So you say like, do this thing first, and then like here's the thing that needs to be done later.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, we'll write more about it. We're still kind of figuring it out, but we're dogfooding it really heavily at Facebook, and like it's a pretty cool API when it works. So we'll get it working.
Cool. All right, so last question. Hi Dan, could you explain a little about React Fusion?
So I don't know if you've heard about Fusion thing. So it's a pre-pack. Have you played with pre-pack at all?
No.
So like pre-pack is a project. It's not actively developed now. It's like a project that optimizes JavaScript by actually executing it at build time.
Oh, interesting.
So like it can't do a lot of things because like if there's date now, it's like, oh, I don't know what it is. So like it can't execute everything. So for those things, it leaves like placeholders.
So it runs like the node parts basically, like the things that can run a node.
It's weirder because it actually, it doesn't even use like, it is itself like, it is like, it runs a node, but it is an actual interpreter itself.
Yeah. Okay.
So it actually reads your code and like executes like, oh, if statement, and it like goes into it. But then instead of executing code, instead of like, what is the purpose of executing code, right? It's just doing something.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything. Instead, it serializes code that would do the same thing. So like if you have a condition, if 2 plus 2 equals 4, like console log this, otherwise console log that, it would like 2 plus 2, oh, it is 4, console log. Can't do that, but I'm just going to write console log to the output. So it actually outputs the code that does the same thing, but with less like conditions. It like doesn't create like extra objects if you just create properties. And it's pretty interesting. So we experimented with that a lot, and we use it to compile React components. So like if you use like, it's kind of similar to, well, not similar, but like Svelte tries to compile things away.
Yeah.
It's like also trying to compile things away. So if you have like a menu bar that has a bunch of menu items and so on, Fusion would just execute all of them and just turn that into one component that just have like UL, li. So it just like removes all the stuff. But because it does this by executing code and like outputting the code that it can't run now, it actually ends up like producing a lot of code. So that's not a trade-off that you can make on the web because like you don't want to have load bundles.
Yeah.
But it influenced like the design, like Prepack influenced hooks API. So one of the reasons why hooks are like designed this way that you have like separate use state calls is that this actually makes it very easy to merge components together in the compiler. So you can just inline the function into the outer component. And like we managed to compile like a component with like 200 layers into one huge component. So like it's really interesting. But it was just slower because of generated code. So Fusion is on hold for now, but we learned a lot from it, and we plan to like reboot the effort after like suspense and concurrent mode with a slightly different approach. So that's something we plan to look at again.
Solid.
Soonish.
So before I let you go, I want to ask each of you to give me 2 things that surprised you the most about Armenia.
Can I just say that cigarettes are like really cheap? But like it's insane. Am I really smoking Marlboro? Like, is this real?
You're probably not. And the second
That
thing?
was one thing, right?
That was one thing, yeah, I'm thinking about the second one.
All right.
No, that really surprised the hell out of me.
All right.
You go first.
Something that surprised me was that. So I have one positive thing and one less positive. I don't know if I'm like.
We're very good at taking criticism in Armenia. I don't know if you know.
So this is not really criticism. It's
It's like
just.
Portugal. I love it.
So I'll start with the one that's, well, not as positive for me, but probably positive for you, actually.
Oh, you can smoke inside?
Yeah, so you
No,
can,
that's terrible.
okay. Yeah, so
Please stop.
it's like, even if you go to like a club, it's like the ventilation is not super.
You don't have to have
advanced.
ventilation, I think.
There might be a law passed next year.
Yeah,
that
I think
will
they're
ban-
doing that in 3
So
years or something.
We're on track.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
I felt like I inhaled like more smoke than like in my entire
Good
life.
news is that much won't give you cancer, but you know, Russia did it, Georgia did it, so we're next.
Yeah, like all countries are pretty much doing it right now. So, like, I think the only places you can still smoke inside the EU is Austria, Berlin, not Germany, just Berlin, and Portugal. Okay, so you can smoke in some places.
Well, did you figure out the second thing?
Shit, I figured it out and then I forgot again. Oh, okay, so the thing that actually really surprised me was on the day before the conference, we all visited Tumo, the learning center, and this is fucking incredible. Like, anything that they're doing in there is completely incredible. I can only imagine, like, what the new generation will be. Like, I think we'll all be out of a job, so we're just gonna take it as we can. And I think it's really impressive, like, how much effort is being put into learning about computers and teaching kids about computers completely for free. I can, like, only imagine what I could have been as an adult if I had that. We don't have that. That's incredible. Like, a huge congratulations to anyone who has anything to do with Tumo. Like, we were all, like, flabbergasted, which is only a word in the UK. So amazed.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the same thing.
Also, Dan got to watch 12-year-olds try React, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah, they're all efficient hooks.
Yeah, they are. It's insane.
It's true. Dan, do you have your second?
I was planning to say the same thing, so I don't really.
All right, go Tumo. Well done, guys. Thank you so much for coming.